Hey, what's going on, my friends? My name is Victor. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 signs that you are experiencing, you are healing ancestral trauma. This is a very fascinating thing that we are only beginning to scratch the surface. But it's not some woo-woo spiritual concept. This is a real thing that's happening to a lot of people all around the world. Even scientists can tell with a single drop of blood if you have had family that lived through the Holocaust. Obviously a very traumatic experience for a collective of people. That trauma literally is stored in the DNA of the future generations. And what's happening now is people who are awakening spiritually are kind of, in a sense, confronting this ancestral trauma. And thank goodness for it, but we're cleansing it. We're transmuting it. We're healing it. We're breaking these ancestral curses, one person at a time. But it's a very bizarre thing when you're actually going through it and no one gave you the memo that it is a real thing. When this started to happen to me about 3 or 4 years ago, I just assumed these feelings I was feeling were associated with something in my life that I needed to kind of adjust or fix. And it threw me for an absolute loop. I drove myself crazy, and it just was a very uncomfortable, stressful, worrisome time in my life. And it was not necessary. All it was, like a passing storm cloud in the sky, is a passing energy that wanted to just be expressed and released forever. There's nothing I had to do, nothing I had to think about, nothing I had to figure out or fix. It was just a phenomena that nobody told me would be happening to me, which is why I'm making this video. I'm going to share with you 3 very obvious signs that you are going through this. And if you are going through this, I can almost guarantee it's going to offer you a tremendous amount of relief and understanding and knowledge of what to do, how to navigate it, how to get the most out of this beautiful blessing, which, believe it or not, it is. Number 1, strong, potent, powerful, big emotions that seem to come out of nowhere, that seem to have no relation to your life. Intense fear, intense worry, paranoia, guilt, grief, sadness, depression. A lot of it's fear, honestly. A lot of it's fear. Trapped, unexpressed fear, all of a sudden cut loose in our body. I had a shaman friend kind of help me through this a little while ago, and he told me that the energy of fear always needs a mental construct to sort of attach itself to and keep itself alive. So regardless of where this fear comes from or what it really represents, how far back it stems from, the mind is very good at saying it's because of that. It's because there's something you did wrong. There's something you need to fix. This person, this situation. And you start to project this fear into your daily life, and then think you need to manage all the different variables, the fluctuations of your life in order to avoid the disaster of that this fear is kind of implying. You know, for me, as I mentioned before, it was a fear of losing a child. I met a lot of people who have a fear of getting really sick or getting cancer or something like that. The shaman friend I was talking about, his fear was that he would die, and then his wife, who he loved so much, would be kind of, it was almost like a fear of the pain she would feel if he was to die. So he was afraid of death. I'm afraid something's going to happen to my kids. It's just this fear. But the problem with letting the mind run away with itself too much is then we kind of get off track and go on these unnecessary sort of paranoid-induced tangents that are going to have absolutely no effect on the fear. Like for me, it was with the kids, at least for a time before I became aware of this, I started to like watch them very closely when we'd go for a walk. I remember at this time we lived in Summerlin, Las Vegas on a court. So there's like not much traffic. We were at the very end. My little kids want to ride their bikes in front of the house with like no traffic. And I would sit there in my little like freaking like camper chair from Dick's Sporting Goods and just like a military sergeant inspecting a bird would chirp and I'd be aware of it. And I was like psychologically hovering over them, wearing myself out, you know. And then it got to the point where like they wanted to do things. I want to go to my friends and go swimming. Oh no, what if the parents don't watch you and you drown? No, you better stay home with daddy where he can protect you. Thank God I didn't let this go on very long at all. My kids are pretty intuitive and they quickly rebelled, and they could sense my fear and unconsciousness, and it was allowed me to kind of adjust. But you know, another time I did have a sort of fear about getting cancer actually, and I never went in the sun. I would always wear sunscreen. I didn't do a lot of different things like that. So the point is, this is not going to be the answer. It has nothing to do with my kids. They're fine, they're safe, they're good. Nothing wrong with that. I'm good, no cancer. It's just an ancestral feeling coming up. Number 2, negative synchronicity. This may not happen to all of you, but it certainly did happen to me. I started to become kind of like that. Those same overwhelming feelings would be triggered by synchronicity, by repetitive numbers for me. Where, you know, a lot of times people see things like 1111, you know, 1212, 777, whatever, these different number sequences. And it kind of activates this part of you that remembers you're on track, that you are protected, you are looked over, that life is magical and divine, that we are eternal, and whatever it is going on in your life, you're on track. A lot of times synchronicity will help with that. But this was the opposite type of synchronicity. It had the exact opposite effect. It let me know that, you might be off track. And these feelings, it would ping my pain body, and that fear would just wash over me. And then I would try to make sense of it. And then the more I was kind of caught in that loop, the more patterns I would see. The more times I would let these different number sequences ping my pain body, and it was a very stressful thing. One time I was processing like a fire. I would see like fire synchronicities. I'd always notice the fire hydrant on the wall in buildings, and I'd see like the little thing you can pull to set off the fire alarm, and a fire truck would storm by. Oh! And every time it would recreate this sort of traumatic response almost over and over and over again through negative synchronicity. And what I learned is that a lot of it was sort of self-induced. A lot of it was my own misunderstanding of what it meant. I thought these synchronicities meant that I'm heading in a direction where these feelings are going to finally become like manifest physically. It wasn't that at all. It was that this sort of thing would happen, and I would focus on it. I would try to fix it. I'd try to figure it out. And because I was giving this weird phenomenon all my attention, of course, it just started happening more and more and more, and it kind of was self-perpetuating. And what helped me is to simply ignore it, basically. To simply ignore it. And then also when it did happen, to not try to do anything. To just be in that unresolved, that feeling of let those unresolved feelings just kind of be there without trying to avoid them or fix them or change them. Number 3, an intuitive awareness of all that I'm already talking about. You might already intuitively know that what's happening with you, it's not actually tied to this lifetime. During this whole process, you may have the intuitive understanding that all these feelings really don't have much to do with you in this current incarnation. You'll sometimes even have insights. Like I've had these insights that, like throughout my journey with the whole kids thing, I have learned, and this is just, I believe it to be true. I don't know for sure, obviously, but through my own inner work, I've sort of discovered that I have had a past life where I lost my entire family in a fire. And it was due, I believe, to some kind of neglect on my part. And I carried into this life not only a fear of it happening again, but a tremendous guilt. That was another powerful ancestral thing of guilt. But then at other times I was doing my healing journey and sort of pinpointed it, at least what it seemed to be, from my grandfather who lost a son. One time I was having all these energies come up during ayahuasca, which they have many times. And I literally saw, I don't know if it was an image or a vision, or it felt like I was seeing something actually happening in real time. It was like my grandfather, and he was just sobbing uncontrollably. He was like almost like in fetal position, retching in absolute agony over the loss of his child, feeling that he did something wrong. I could feel that. It was not only a grieving, but it was like, I did this. It's my fault. And you can imagine that. So was it from that? Was it from the past life? Was it from some of my own traumas? I don't know, probably all of the above. I honestly can't say for sure, but there was the whole time an awareness that this thing I'm going through doesn't really need to be fixed in my own life. It's just something that's happening because of all this other stuff I just mentioned. But for me, that intuitive understanding at that time was not enough to give me any sense of comfort. That's why I'm making this video, to try to really let you know you don't have to do anything. It's not anything you have to play out. You're not gonna play it out. That was my fear. That if I don't fix these energies, they are gonna manifest. They are gonna play out because they're so powerful. I'm putting out these like weird, bad vibes, and it's gonna come back. So I try to adjust myself and adjust my life to avoid this catastrophe that seemed imminent, looming around the corner. I realized like all of that was just unnecessary. I realized that it does take time sometimes because they're big energies. And I would question, why is this happening to me? Why the fuck am I going through this? This is insane. Is this really actually happening to my life right now? But you know what? My wife Pattie just had a reading with a powerful medium, a psychic medium, a few days ago. And she said that this medium said she almost couldn't, there were so many people coming to this medium to try to communicate to Pattie just a heartfelt thanks and gratitude, because me and Pattie, we run in Aaron, we like organize these ayahuasca ceremonies in Costa Rica. We bring in shamans and stuff, and during ayahuasca in particular, it does take a lot of people to do this ancestral healing. It does heal many aspects of a person's past. And anyway, all these ancestors, not of Pattie, but of the guests that had come, were trying to come in and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. The work you're doing is powerful. Oh my God. They said you are breaking ancestral curses that have been living on for God knows how long, how many generations have suffered with something that you are now processing through. You don't have to drink ayahuasca. This is just happening to a lot of people. Ayahuasca will certainly accelerate it if you're called to it. Not necessary. A lot of people finding themselves watching this video are going through it now. No plant medicine required. And it's not easy. Even with all of what I'm saying, when those feelings come, they're not easy. In fact, the one shaman friend who kind of helped me through this, he said to me, he said, Vic, I'm going through this too. And he said, if you find a way to overcome this, let me know. Because I haven't yet. And this guy's been serving medicine for like over 20 years of his life. He's he's done a lot of inner work. Very impressive sort of energy this guy has, and he is still going through it. He said it doesn't matter though, man. He said all it really is a matter of to what extent you allow those feelings of fear to control you. Because we always have a choice. For years, I allowed this phenomenon of ancestral healing to literally control my life and to distort my expression. I was holding myself back. I eventually started to tie in this fear with my YouTube channel. I thought if I continue to make videos, I'm gonna get really popular, and therefore I'm gonna become disconnected from my family. So this guilt literally was completely holding back my divine mission. And it sometimes comes up, but the shaman said, it's to the extent that you let it control yourself. And after that conversation, I looked around at my life and I was like, oh wow, there are some key areas that these energies that aren't even mine, really, maybe my past life, who knows, are like infringing upon. And just that awareness and the recognition that I can live my life consciously. When I'm feeling this way, I can like make choices logically and not let these feelings influence or weigh me down. It's been a complete game changer. My life since that time has blossomed in such incredible ways. And I'm still working through those energies to an extent, though thankfully a lot of them do seem like they are completed, believe it or not. Never thought it would happen, but it has. But it didn't matter. They can come up if they need to, but I won't detour living my life in the way I know in my heart to be the best way and authentic. So anyways, my friends, I invite you just to have patience with this process. I invite you to have an appreciation for what it is you're doing for yourself. It's not easy. And I promise you, your ancestors are probably thanking you because you're doing a lot of work that never got done. You are so powerful. You are allowing yourself to feel feelings that people from the past could not allow themselves to feel. Even if you're doing this in your quiet apartment, I don't know what the hell's going on up there. Even if you're doing this in your own little corner of the world, no one understands, no one even knows it's happening, they do. Remember that. Remember the gravity and how profound the work you are doing is, my friend. With that, I will say, peace out. Hope this helps.